Righty, kia ora tātou, nā mai haramai, welcome everyone. I'll just start us with a karakia. E rā I tamanui te rā, whiti mai raka, whiti mai rito te ti kia tau. Brilliant, thank you. Welcome everyone. Just go back into the agenda. From Geraldine. Oh, sorry, that's Rosie. Good start. Apologies, Rosie. Now, we will, on that note, we'll move to apologies. Any apologies? I'll just note Rose from Pleasant Point. Can I have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor. Alrighty, so team, I'm just going to move a couple of things around. We've got the Kaya, Ella and Hayden from you being here, and they're going to come and tell us about Sister Cities Exchange. So we're going to forum where we've got the agenda proper. So on that note, welcome team, and come up the front here to grab a seat. And it's it feels formal, but we're all friends, so we can the exchange. You don't have to give us 30 minutes worth. It's we're just really keen to hear from you and the benefits that you got from the exchange, and any nice tidbits you want to pass on. But yeah, push that and just bring it down.
Well, I've just got some bullet points of stuff to share, I guess. So highlights, challenges and all that kind of stuff. So I could just go through and Hayden and Kaya can add what they want. So, okay, highlights. Me to see the beautiful sights around Japan. So they took me to support the huge city. It just went on for miles and miles, and big skyscrapers, very different from what we see here in New Zealand, so that was pretty exciting. And we also game centre where they had lots of little arcade games, sport, floors and floors of different games, etc. And I also went to the Otaru. It's like a smaller town, about an hour away from. Very beautiful, and there was an aquarium there which had lots of cool fish, and yeah, that was also amazing. And then they also Hokkaido, which was very, very big. So yeah, do you guys have any highlights you want to share?
The families were you hear kind of, or I thought at least going into it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so strict. Japanese family, strict, respect. Oh my gosh. I walk in, and this was after the wee dinner thing we had, and this was my first time meeting the just go inside. He looks at me, he's like, what? And he just looks up. I'm like, yep. And then he looks down, looks at my feet, because I got size 15 feet. He's like, oh my roller, measures my height, and then he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And the mum's off to the side, taking photos, smile, come on. And I'm like, oh. But yeah, it was awesome. It's one of my highlights. Do you have anything?
One of my highlights is just meeting new people. I enjoyed going to school and also meeting each other. And yeah, I just loved school because everyone was so different and welcoming, and especially with my hair. They didn't know how to control it because it was just everywhere. Loved talking to me, getting to know me, and I also loved getting to know them. Yeah.
Also, another highlight for me was definitely the food. I tried so much food while I was over there. It was crazy. But it's pretty different stuff, I'm not going to lie. It's very delicious, but sometimes you sort of look. But no, it was very good. And like I ate lots of raw fish. Like, don't know if that's appealing or not, but it was very good. And also just like getting to know so many special people. They let me meet their extended family. They came around for dinner multiple times, and they were just so welcoming and accommodating, and so were my school friends. They all, made the effort to speak to me in English, even though I knew that was going to be hard. To include me in classes, even though I couldn't speak Japanese that well. And yeah, just they were all so welcoming and just amazing people, so yeah. To speak on the Inua radio, which was very, very cool. And they just asked us questions, and we just simply answered them, and they translated them into Japanese. So that was pretty cool, and it felt pretty professional. But yeah, that's another one of my highlights. So should we move on to maybe some challenges that we faced? So for me, a challenge was definitely the language barrier. It meant that it was very hard to communicate with people, obviously not knowing much Japanese, and it was difficult to have conversations. But we got through it by using Google Translate. We'd just speak into it, and then they'd listen to whatever the translator had to say. So we did overcome that challenge. But it would have been nice to, have a real. That would have been nice. But anything you guys have?
I think for me, like a big, change of because like I'm generally quite a structured person where I get up at a certain time, do certain things. Where in Japan they had a completely different, way of living in our family. But I think, especially because I'd get up and then they'd be like, oh yeah, we're going to this place in an hour. And I'd be like, oh. Yeah, I think our routine changed, and obviously they live a bit different. Like they have dinner at 8 p.m. there. So I'll be like, man, I'm hungry. But it was good though, yeah.
Changed, especially with the time difference, since the sun would rise at around 5 and I would also wake up at that time. And yeah, that's just about it, time difference.
We could speak. Pretty similar kind of structure to what we have in New Zealand. Starts and finishes around the similar time, but the students, they stay, which is very different to what we have in New Zealand. For each class, they stay in, and even for lunchtime, they stay in the classroom, and the teachers are the ones who move around. So they'll come in with their books and their chalk, and we'll all be sitting on separate desks facing a chalkboard, and you'll just hear the pretty gruesome sound of the chalk against the chalkboard. But yeah, so it was 6 50-minute classes with 10 minutes in between, and then a very short break for lunch, which was different because I value my lunchtime. But during the classes, I mainly holidays, so I just did those, as I couldn't understand again what they were saying, but they did get me to contribute and participate in some English classes by reading out some texts or phrases, whatever they were, just for the class so they could understand them fully. So, yeah.
I found that, I guess, a lot of the students, they're kind of, it almost felt like they based a lot of their self-worth on, I guess, the grades they were getting, which, like, they were all very academically focused and they were all trying so hard to get a perfect mark. And, like, you'd even have some of them be like even my one, like the guy I was staying with, I was like, oh, you do like school? And he's like, yes, I'm good. I get good grade. I was like, oh, okay. And then if someone wasn't very smart, like the guy would say to me, he's not good, he gets a bad grade. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, it's completely different in New Zealand. And yeah, it was something interesting I just picked up on. So, yeah.
The school I attended was very different from theirs. It was separated into different classes where all the students had similar interests. So one class would focus on cooking while the other class would be focused on English. And luckily I was in that English class. And so they were all very academically focused and yet dedicated to the extracurricular things they participated in. They were very devoted to setting up summer festivals and all that things. And yeah, I just really love their dedication towards what they love and what they do.
So some cultural differences that I noticed were that they are so much more polite than us. Yeah, no digs whatsoever, but so they like take their shoes off and change them for designated like inside and outside areas. So every time we went outside, you put on your outside shoes, and same for your inside shoes. So that's just something that's like not getting the dirt like from outside coming in. It's also, I think, a cultural, religious thing as well. And then like we would say blessings and thank you before and after eating every time we would eat, even at school, even if it was just a snack, you'd say your blessing and then you'd be able to eat. So it's just, you know, being very polite and thankful for what you have was definitely like the main cultural difference that I noticed. So yeah. You guys have anything to add?
I thought that, like, just in general, they were a lot more welcoming than we are, especially at school, than we are in New Zealand. Like, I find in New Zealand, we are quite stuck, like, we're always with one another, I guess, like other New Zealanders. And if someone from Japan comes to our school or something like that, people are kind of, you know, a bit reserved and step back. But I found in Japan they were quite open to me at school, and they were, even though it was pretty hard to have a normal conversation, they were quite open, they were quite wanting to get to know me and talking to me and trying to start conversations. Just, yeah, a lot more, I guess, welcoming to foreigners. Yeah.
Just adding on to Hayden's, yes, they were very welcoming, and especially since I was one of their first foreign exchange students. And yeah, very sociable, unlike New Zealand people sometimes. And I think that's just because we're so used to having people from different backgrounds and ethnicities that we don't really take it into account what's actually happening or where they're from. But yeah, that's all.
Is there any questions or anything? That's all I've got written down.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be. That's great. We really appreciate that. Questions, Councillor Scott.
Got one question for you each. I know you, Hayden, love your music and you girls are very good at your sport. So did you try some extracurricular activities, or was it just very school focused, or did you get some opportunities to play in a band or do anything like that?
At, I guess, my school, there wasn't necessarily that sort of opportunity for me, but I did, because my host, the guy that came to my house, my host brother, he started picking up drums when he left me, and then he started a band, so I got to watch his band rehearse, and I got to play with them sometimes. So yeah, they did have like a music class, but he didn't take that. I'm not sure how it worked at the high school that I went to, but yeah.
Yeah, again, there wasn't a lot of opportunities to participate in the extracurricular stuff, but I did get the chance to play in a volleyball practice one time, which was pretty cool. So yeah, quite into volleyball, so that was pretty cool just to have a hit around with some girls who also were pretty good. So yeah.
My host sister was part of the dance club, and so she kind of forced me to try it out. But in return, I taught them some kapaka or just basic Tongan dancing.
Councillor Oliver.
I've just got a quick question, it's a bit of a curly one. Just really interested in different cultures, how they treat guys your age with telephones. Are they stricter on them? Are they allowed to have them all the time? How does that work? Because I'm always interested on what different cultures treat phones and stuff.
So at school, during class, you're not allowed them, like, at all. Well, that was the case for me anyway, but they were pretty lenient on me, obviously, because I need it for my translation and all of that. But during your breaks, you're allowed to use them. Lunchtime, you're allowed to use them. And then at home, my family had no issue with me being on it at all. So, yeah, they weren't too strict as I thought they would be. Yeah, they were just normal, yeah.
I think a lot of it was also just kind of knowing when to use and not to use your phone, just kind of using common sense. I guess, like, if you're at the dinner table eating, obviously you're not going to pull out your phone, just like you would in New Zealand. Sorry? Yeah. And, like, I mean, in Japan, you would see kids, especially at the end of the day when, like, the homeroom teacher was talking with their phone, like, just on Instagram, bored out of their mind. But, like, yeah, I think it's probably the same, maybe a little bit stricter, but phones aren't banned from school there.
Yeah, the phones aren't banned at school, but it's quite funny to see when a teacher walks in, because they all have a plan on where to hide it and how to hide it. But yeah, apart from that, they're a very good self-control, and when I'm alone, I didn't really have time to go on my phone since I was focused on work and just getting to know everyone. Yeah.
Loved hearing these stories. It must have been quite daunting going to a foreign country where you don't speak the language. So what advice have you got to other young people that might apply next time on this, but a bit hesitant or nervous about going to a foreign country where you don't speak the language?
My advice would be just to sign up and just do it, because it's such a once in a lifetime opportunity. Even if you do end up travelling to Japan, you're never ever going to be seeing what we have seen on this trip. You're never going to be going to stay with a host family, to stay in a small town, to get to know people at school or anything. So it's just such an incredible opportunity to see something that is so rare. And yeah, and also I'd also say to definitely learn some Japanese. So yeah, just some basic stuff, just so you can just say, hi, thanks, please, just the basic stuff, so you know a little bit. But yeah, that would be my advice.
Just do it. Just I think go in with an open mind, because obviously if you go into somewhere with an open mind and a positive attitude, you're going to get a lot more out of it than if you go in thinking, oh, this is going to be awful, the parents aren't going to like me, this, that. Just go in positive. And if anything happens, just, I guess, brush it off. It's only 3 weeks. And yeah.
Yeah, just learn the basics or simple mannerism. But luckily for me, I learnt some in year 9 and 10, so that was a big advantage. But either way, there's the internet now and many ways to solve your translation problems and get through life while you're there. Yeah.
Awesome. Any further questions, team? It might be an idea for future local radio hosts, maybe Q&A with the Inua students moving forward. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Thanks for coming and presenting. Appreciate you representing your schools, council and the district and being great ambassadors. Thank you, and thanks so much for being involved in the exchange.
We'd also like to say thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to do and take part in this amazing experience. We've learned so much and we're so grateful, and we would definitely recommend it to anyone who is thinking about applying for next year or further years. So thank you all so much for listening as well. So thank you.
Yes, wait, thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah.
No, our pleasure. Thanks for being involved, and thanks for being great ambassadors. Next team, well done. Thanks. See you later. So we're just going to Sister Cities. We're just going to receive a note. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Oliver, Councillor Shannon, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Cool. So we'll go back now to item 3, which is public forum, and we've got Dr. Phil Driver first. So welcome, Dr. Phil. And we've got a presentation. Is that going up? I know we've all received the presentation, but I think that's some slides are going up as well. That's all right. No worries. Perfect. The floor's yours.
Thank you. I've been to a number of council meetings where some councillors have said they want more information and other councillors have said we've got too much information. And it came across to me that you perhaps have been receiving the wrong mix of information. In fact, to make good decisions, you need information that's necessary, you need it to be sufficient and not too much, and most of all, it's got to be credible. So people can make all sorts of presentations to you. If you don't trust it, it's a waste of time. So I'm going to touch on that as it relates to climate change. I'm presenting here as a granddad fighting for my grandkids' future and for your grandkids' futures. They'll experience 24 times the number of extreme weather events that I have. And every statement I'll be making today, I've got hard evidence to back it up. I'm an experienced consultant. I'm not looking for work, but I'll help if you want me to. And for those of you who aren't keen on consultants, I'm cheaper than many of your staff. So I'm all in favour of council wanting good value for money, but that should apply to both consultants and staff. That's hopefully the last assertive statement I make today. Is anybody anywhere competently collecting, synthesising and making credible economic, environmental, social and cultural recommendations specific to South Canterbury? So about 3 days ago, this report just came out from a bunch of universities around the world, leading scientists, the 2024 State of the Climate Report. I printed out a copy for each of you, and I encourage you to have a look at that because there's a whole lot of graphs in there showing what is already happening on climate change. These aren't some fanciful models. This is what's already happening. This morning I received this report, Ernst & Young, 98 pages, a nature-positive Aotearoa economic analysis of Aotearoa New Zealand nature opportunity. A lot of detail in here on our agricultural sector and its future risks and opportunities. 98 pages. I don't know if you're going to read that one. And Reese this morning sent me through details about a seminar on the rise of bioengineering. The messages in all of these reports are not particularly encouraging for South Canterbury, and I'll explain why. So I'm going to give you 4 examples of climate change complexity that impact on us. And it's unreasonable to expect any of you to know about these in detail or to know what to do with them. We need help. So the first one is drought in Central America. Second one is destabilisation of the Antarctic circumpolar vortex. Lovely big words in there. Third one is globally evolving Scope 3 emission standards, and the fourth one is global vegetarian trends. What have they got to do with South Canterbury? Well, let's go to the first one, drought in Central America. Anybody know why that's significant? What's happening in Central America? The large lake that feeds the locks for the Panama Canal is running out of water. The locks can't operate the way they were, so shipping has been cut by 1/3. So ships now have to go around Cape Horn. So ships from New Zealand with our produce going to the eastern seaboard of America or go to Europe have to go around Cape Horn. It costs more, it adds to the carbon footprint, and takes longer. How significant is it to us? Well, shipping costs were quoted in the closure of Smithfield. So shipping does matter to us. So I say decreasing demand for sheep products and shipping partly to blame for the closure of Smithfield. So increased shipping costs and Scope 3 emissions as a result of drought in Central America. What about this one? Destabilisation of the Antarctic circumpolar vortex. Anybody knows what that means for us? Probably not. Okay, I don't expect you to. Early September, we had 5 days of nor'west, followed by 5 days of southerly, 174 kilometre an hour gust at Lake Ohau. What caused that, you know? This is not business as usual. This was not our normal anticyclone, cyclone or anticyclone depression sequence. It was due to this, the destabilisation of the vortex. If we could just play that video now. So this is the high altitude vortex of air rushing around Antarctica. Look at New Zealand now, and now, and now, and now, and now. Thank you. That didn't used to happen. The vortex did not come up over New Zealand. That vortex caused that 5 days of nor'westers at the beginning of September. In Europe, the same thing is happening with the polar vortex up there. They're having 10-day heat waves, 10-day heat domes, as they're called, temperatures of over 50 degrees. Is that what's coming our way? Well, we've already gone from 2 to 3 days of nor'westers to 5 days of nor'westers. It's already happening. Does anybody know the implications for our food production due to that destabilisation of the vortex? Is anybody even asking that question? Because I imagine if you're a dairy farmer and we had 10 days of howling nor'westers, your animals are not going to be particularly happy about that. So we've got some multi-million-dollar threats and opportunities just due to that, and this is very, very new, just in the last few months that this started happening. Globally evolving Scope 3 emission standards is another crucial one. So 63 countries already have them, and this is a warning from farmers to a farmers' conference from the CEO of Rabobank, who's one of the biggest lenders into the agricultural sector. Scope 3 emissions are the standards that countries set for their imported goods. And those countries are saying, we want clean products, we don't want high emission products. They represent 80% of our exports, according to KPMG. Major companies, Tesco, Dow and others are doing the same thing, introducing these Scope 3 emission standards. Has anybody read any of them? Do we know what the implications of these standards are? They're damn serious. And they won't accept offsetting. So despite what Beef and Lamb and Fonterra and others will say, they're saying we've got all these trees on our land, that offsets our emissions. That is not acceptable internationally. Offsetting has lost global credibility, and yet we're relying on it. South Canterbury's beef, lamb and dairy exports are the highest emitting globally traded food commodities in the world, apart from farmed prawns and dark chocolate. Emissions creating beef protein are 100 times the emissions from pea protein. We can grow peas here. Emissions creating dairy milk proteins are 20 times the emissions from pea milk proteins. Canada's gone on to that. They're building a 500,000 tonne a year pea protein plant at the moment. Water used to create dairy milk is 5 times the water used to create pea milk. I'm not having a go at the dairy industry. These are facts coming through from the international world that we need to address. Here's a graph of the greenhouse gas emissions per 100 grams of protein. The top row is beef, the second one lamb and mutton, then prawns, beef, cheese, milk. Our major South Canterbury exports are the highest emitting food products traded globally. And our customers are saying we want low emission products. The best case scenario for reducing emissions from beef is we might get it down by 30%. That's using a toxic chemical. That's still 66 times worse than pea protein. Pea and nut proteins do not need to replicate